So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world. Welcome to today's video. Today, we're talking about things that I learned about starting over, particularly when you're not 25. Because starting over when you're a little bit older can sometimes um, be a little scary. But what I have learned over time um, is okay. I've started my life over many times. I started over when I got divorced. I started over when I started a business twice over because the first way that I was doing it in the first year and a half or so didn't really work. So I had to figure out something new. I started over when I left the United States in 2018. And really, every time I switched to a new country, every time I moved to a new country, it required me to start over in a sense. And I've lived in 10 countries since 2018. Um, what else? I've started over many times. And every time I've started over, I ended up okay. That's the thing I really want people to know. Um, And so every time I start over, it's not that I'm absolutely fearless about starting over. There are some, there is some anxiety, I think, that's attached to it, but it's not enough to make me say, it's not enough to make me not do it, to not go through with the starting over. So I just wanted to offer some life lessons that I have learned about starting over when you're not 25. Um, the first one is people who are starting over oftentimes go into this fearful, um, can't move. You're sort of frozen in a space, and you don't want to. You're fearful of moving forward. I'll give you an example. There was a time when I was working in higher education, and I knew that this part of my life was coming to an end, and it was time for me to do something else, to move into something where I would have more creative control over my life. Higher education just wasn't doing it for me. Although there were parts of it that I did love, I knew that this wasn't my calling forever. And so I had to figure out how to be able to do something new. And I didn't know how to do that. Like, I didn't know anybody who knew how to do that. Like, I didn't have a bunch of money to be able to, just go out and try stuff, to be able to just go out and try some new stuff. Even though that was what I did, and I've always figured it out. I've always figured out what I was supposed to do. So, at the time I was divorced. Um, I was divorced, and I was at the tail end of this of this job, and I knew this job was eventually going to come to an end. And I felt in coming to work um, in it was I had an idea of what it is that I was moving towards. I didn't really have any real concrete plans. I was just excited about what was coming forward, but the anxiety was about leaving what it is that I already knew. Like, you already know what you make every week. You know the people that you work with. Your job that you do on a day-to-day basis. But what I was moving toward, it was something that I had to create. I had to create that from scratch. And I had to be able to figure out, okay, well, what I vision that I have in my head and attach that to in some way, shape, or form. And that was part of what was giving me the anxiety, because I didn't know anybody who did that. I didn't know anybody who did that. And so I had to find people. examples of people that I liked. And I would, at least in that very beginning stage, this was probably, okay, so I left the States in 2018. So this was probably in like 2013-ish or so, um, where I left my job in higher education, or more like I was fired from my job in higher education. And I still did things that were related to education, but I also tried other things. Like I wanted to cook for a while, and learn about recipe development because I had gotten so excited about what I was doing in my own life, um, with learning how to change my health using good food. And so I wanted to be able to write recipes and try recipes. I was on, YouTube University learning how to be able to write, what does a good recipe look like? I got books. Um, I was reading books, reading cookbooks from front to back and reading them like textbooks. It was really an exciting time. But also in these early times, you're also um, you're feeling a lot of anxiety because people are asking you what the hell are you doing, and you don't really have a concrete answer. They're like, I had a master's degree, of course, that I had completed in 2008, and they thought that I had a career plan, a career ladder that I was on, and to just jump off that career ladder to do something that nobody really understood was just sort of strange, especially after being divorced, getting divorced. So nothing really looks stable, at least to outside people. But you have to learn how to become stable within yourself. And so you don't want that anxiety. Um, I can almost kind of like every day I would kind of feel the cortisol sort of surging through the veins in my body, if that makes sense. If you've ever been in a high stress situation, where you couldn't control what the outcome was, but you knew you had to go through the wall anyway, you might understand what it is that I'm talking about. That I don't know. That's about the best that I can explain it. Um, but you have to do something to be able to control that, because if you don't, um, it'll put you in a state of fear. Um, it'll put you in freeze. It'll stop you from being creative. And that's exactly what you don't want. So this is the time for you to be able to get into your journaling. Start forward thinking about what it is that you want to be able to move forward to. If you're stuck on how it is to be able to use journaling in these pivots in your life, this is one way to do it. You move yourself forward to your future by writing your vision as it comes to you, and be as wild as absolutely possible. And you don't have to share it with anybody, especially when you're not clear. When you're not clear, don't even bother to tell it to anybody. Don't even bother to tell anybody. You share it with yourself. You get clear on what it is that you're doing, where it is that you're going first by writing it in your journal. You can also do other things like, you can do tea rituals. I love to be able to do tea rituals. Find the teas that help to make you feel calm. Um, I'm a ginger, mint, lemon type of a person. Um, but you might be, what you like might be something different. So pay attention to the things that you like and just use you want to use a tea that's going to be calming, but more so the ritual of having the tea, use it in the morning or whenever it is that you have a moment to be able to sit down with yourself, perhaps when you are doing your journaling. Um, Having those rituals that you can count on really start to help you feel like um, you have some control over something. You have some sort of control over some part of your life. and you're not making impulsive decisions based on fear of your finances, or you don't want to spend too much time ruminating on your worst possible income, worst possible outcome. You want to ruminate on the biggest, grandest, most hopeful vision that you could ever think of. That's what you want to do. So get rid of the panic and start paying attention to your nervous system. Start taking care of it. Don't let it get out of hand, because it'll take you to another side of the street that you're not supposed to be on. Um, what else? I would say to a lot of times we like to attach our self-worth to the identity that we are leaving behind. So just like I gave the example of what I was doing in education, um, I had built up this whole identity of being a person who worked in adult education. People respected me. My students respected me. It was a tearful day for me to be able to have to leave the students that I loved. And they were upset about me leaving and moving on to someplace new. But it had to be done. It had to be done. And I trusted that they were being left in good hands. And they were. Everybody figures out their life. But it was time for me to be able to figure out my life. That's important too. I can't sit down and stay because my old identity, while it was a good identity, while it lasted, I can't keep all of my self-worth there and say, well, if I leave them, I won't have an identity anymore. I won't have any worth anymore. People won't love me. You have to love yourself enough to understand that the thing that you are moving toward is a continuation of your self-worth. Your self-worth is your self-worth is infinite, no matter where you are. Whether you're up, down, sideways, or forward, your worth as a human being will always be the same. And as long as you understand that, um, you will be okay. So don't risk don't risk moving forward to what it is that is ahead of you, because for the known past that no longer fits you anymore. Um, I want you to know enough to be able to think that there's going to be better ahead of you, and you have to know that. If you're looking for that sort of positivity to come from other people, you're probably going to be met with a lot of fear, because a lot of people there are less people in the world who actually go for their dreams. More people in the world settle for what they know and understand is in front of them. And so you have to decide that you are going to be the one. You have to decide that you are going to be the one to move forward anyway. That's super important. You decide that you're going to be the one, and to decouple your personal worth from the identity that you left behind. Your worth is the same whether you're making money at that old job, or you're in between spaces and trying to figure life out. Um, what else? The next thing is to get clear on the type of lifestyle that you are going towards. A lot of times we stop at, oh wait, well, what sort of job should I get? Or, how much money do I make? While the money is a great question, I think a better question to ask first is, what's the life that I want to live? How do I want my average day to feel? and what do I need to be able to get is that fit the brackets of the salary of our next salary. I'm not saying that the money's not important. Please hear me. I'm just saying rather than starting from the money that, somebody's going to give you, I'm saying start from the vision that you have in your mind first. And then go out and start figuring out, okay, well, for myself, um, I right now I'm looking forward to creating the greatest creative life of my dreams. So I really want my life to be focused on my work as a writer and being able to travel all around the globe, working with people on their books and my books, um, and being able to learn and study various cultures and food cultures from all over the world. That is exciting to me while creating a creative home in Mexico, right? That's my dream. What do you want your Tuesdays to look like, as an example? So I like to be able to get up. Um, I like getting up at sunrise because I like being able to watch sunrise. I want to be someplace where sunrise is a great time for me to be able to get up. And the reason why I know this is because I did this when I lived in Rwanda. If you can see, I have on my Rwanda earrings today. I don't know if you can see it. You can see it on this side. Um, when I was in Rwanda, um, I would get up early to be able to watch the sunrise over the mountains from one of my 3 balconies that I had on my apartment. And it was gorgeous. And many of them I captured via video. And the video honestly doesn't even do it much justice. They're so beautiful. They were so beautiful. And the place that I want to live in Mexico has sunrises and sunsets that are equally beautiful because they're out in a place that's mountainous, um, and it's a desert environment. And so I'm looking forward to being able to wake up to that. I like slow mornings. I don't want to be rushed into doing work off the bat. I don't want to be bothered with phone calls and talking to people or talking to clients first thing. I want to do my stuff first thing in the morning, getting myself together. I want to be able to sit somewhere and have my tea and do my journaling. I like to be able to have a good breakfast. And it really depends on what a good breakfast is. Sometimes it might just be something that's fruit based. Other times I want eggs and vegetables and potatoes of some kind. And my day may include getting up and getting a walk first in. I like to be able to do my 10,000 steps in a day. Um, I've been doing my exercises to help me build muscle. So we do those exercises. I'm not going to a gym first thing in the morning. I have a place in my home for that. I have a place in my home where I get to do my meditation. It's a special place for me to be able to do my meditation, and it's quiet. Um, it smells nice because I have my essential oils in it. It has plants. Um, I might do a cacao ceremony in there every once in a while. Like, this is what I want. And then I can sit in a place where I have options within the home that I live in for me to be able to do my work. So I have a standing desk where I can adjust it. I can stand up some days. Some days I might do my walking while I'm at my desk. Some days I might be sitting on the floor. Some days I might be on the couch. depending on what the temperature is outside, I might want to sit next to the fireplace. I have a fireplace in my head in the house that I'm living in because part of the year it does get chilly in the place that I want to go to. Other parts of the year, I might go outside or go onto my rooftop and be able to watch, um, views of the city from where I am. Um, on some days, I like to be able to go and do my food shopping for the day. So I like to be able to have my food as fresh as possible. I get my food, I go out and I pick my food and I bring it home and I cook it. I don't have a bunch of old food sitting in my refrigerator. Um, and then I like to have hours of work time, 3 to 4 hours, where so on certain days I like to be able to work on my things during those work hours. Other days I'm working on client stuff. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I like to be able to, if I have a client meeting, it'll be done on Tuesday or a Thursday. Um, then at some point I will make my second meal of the day. I like to be able to close my night out with a good hot shower and an art session. So I have a space where I have all my art stuff. I have my paints, my paper, my my mechanical pencils, my soft pastels. Um, I have various types of paper, different sizes, postcard size all the way up to large wall hanging size. Um, and this is a life that feels good to me. This is a life that feels good to me. You need to know what your life looks like, and then figure out. I take that vision that I have, and then I ask myself, well, I know how this feels to me. Um, Now, how much is that going to cost me? And just get honest with yourself about what it costs. Instead of saying, all right, well, I want to get a job and it's going to pay me $60,000 a year and I can only do this, this, and this. And so I can't, I can only live in these places. That's restrictive. That's restrictive. That's not what you want. You want to start from what it is that your soul wants and move outwards from there. All right. My last point, my last point for this video is I want you to know that you are never really starting from scratch. Even though, we are starting over, there's points in our lives where we have to start over. Um, you're never really starting from absolute scratch, even though it may feel like it. Like when I left the States, I didn't really leave the States with a bunch of stuff. And I certainly didn't, I really didn't leave a lot of anything in the States. I have a few items that I left with my dad, but it's not like, I needed someplace. What do you call those storage boxes? And like I don't have a storage box that I'm paying a ridiculous amount of money to hold IKEA furniture in it until one day when I decide to go back. I'm not going back at this point. Um, but the reason starting over really gives us paralyze the anxiety is that there's a false assumption that we are resetting our lives to zero. So you are not an absolute blank page. You live a rich, multi-layered anthology of a life. And so every trial that you've survived, every time you've had, your heart broken and you've had to heal it again, every dollar that you feel like you spend, it may not have gone as well as you have wanted to, but you learned from it. So those are dollars that were always well spent. They were invested in you. whether you got the outcome that you wanted or not. You can't get those back. And as long as you sit and think about um, what were the lessons that you learned from that, then you can move forward. Um, every time you have gone through some sort of a health transformation, you learn something from that. Every time you have gone through a career shift, you learn something from that. So, wherever you are in life, if you're 35, 50, 60, 70, it really doesn't matter. You are always starting from a place of experience, a place of wisdom, and muscle memory. So don't feel like, oh, I got to start this all over again from scratch and, you're so devastated. Stop thinking that way. If you're thinking that everything is a disaster, it's going to be a disaster. It's not a disaster. You are starting always from a place of higher wisdom than the last place you were from before. And you're just adding on to it. You're just adding on to it. You're getting better every time. And honestly, I don't know anybody who hasn't started their lives over. And if they haven't, I promise you, their lives are fucked. Their lives are ever miserable. Their lives are ever miserable. And that's not what you want. You're starting over because there's something new that you wanted to be able to do that will help you to incarnate into the full human being that you actually came here on earth to become. That's the point. You're not here to follow through on a career ladder, although the career ladder may be part of it, the career ladder may be part of the plan. It's not the whole thing. It's not the whole thing. So, if you are standing at the edge of a major life pivot, and that's whether you're leaving a career, you're ending a relationship, you're moving across the world, or you are simply stepping into a higher version of yourself, I want you to know that you don't have to navigate this wilderness alone, and you certainly aren't starting from zero. Over on my Substack called Wealthy, Wise, and Whole, we treat these life pivots not as an emergency, but as a sacred invitation to write your next chapter. So when you join our paid community, you get access to our year-long program. It's called Discovering Yourself in Midlife. And this is a place where every week I break down various somatic, financial, and creative shifts um, through guided lessons, deep writing prompts, and essays that I share from things that I learned, things from my life. If that sounds interesting to you, I would love for you to be able to join us. It's called Wealthy, Wise, and Whole. Again, you can go to halana.substack.com. You can click on the link in the description box or in the comment section. Also, please, if you are new to this channel, please click the subscribe button. I would, and click the like button as well. If you really like this sort of content, I would really love for you to be part of the community that we are building here on YouTube. Plus, it helps me to be able to build my channel. I'm trying to monetize the channel so that I can get in front of more people. And all you have to do is subscribe. Press the subscribe button and click the like button. That would also be helpful. So thank you so much. My name is Halana Black. I hope to see you tomorrow. Peace.